Did you turn it on? You did. Good job. Thanks. So, have you guys, I want some participation, okay? Anybody got heaven on their mind? Okay. Have you ever had an experience where you had complete disappointment in someone? Have you ever had an experience where you felt like a complete disappointment to someone? Have you ever met Jesus? So tonight, my husband Reggie is going to come and give his testimony. And let me tell you something. There were definitely some years in our life where I think he felt like a complete disappointment. But that was not Jesus. That was the enemy. And the minute that he met Jesus again, everything changed. So he's going to tell you about it.
I'm just kidding, Marcia. Yeah, I'm not going to dance. That's not going to happen. Sorry. All right. That worked out. Hello. Hey. I want to start by saying thank you to In His Wings for helping me this Easter in the parking lot. Y'all were such a blessing. It was awesome. It was a great weekend. So I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, who has set me free from a meth addiction that should have killed me. And my name is Reggie. Hey. I still struggle with me quite a bit. I was born in 1972, which means I was raised in the 70s and the 80s, and I'm learning more and more about that. I mean, I'm a product of my generation. I'm a Generation X, and I've learned to hate as a coping mechanism for dealing with time not spent with my father or with my mother, and I'm realizing now that's just a product of my generation. Most of the kids that I ran around with had the same parents that I did, and we would run around and we'd go as far as we want as long as we were back by dark, and we wanted to stay out of the house because mom and dad, if they didn't knock your head off, they threatened to. So you basically raised yourself in that generation, and I'm learning more and more about that. But anyway, I was an Army brat. I was born in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I moved to Germany when I was 3 years old, and that's been the story of my life. All of my young growing up, I moved a lot. So my dad was very strict, and he was very physical and verbal with me and my brother. And he's just a product of his father. I'm pretty sure that my grandpa was the same way. You did right or you got back of somebody's hand. And and that was the case all the way up until I was 13 when my mother and father divorced, which I counted as a blessing because I didn't have to live in fear. I was terrified of my father. And I really feel like that's why I didn't want to. I should say I didn't want to, but I didn't want to deal with things. I hated myself. I felt like there was something wrong with me, that my dad wouldn't do the things he did to me if I was different, like he wanted me to be, or like I thought he wanted me to be. So I struggled with self-loathing and depression and being afraid as a kid. But once my mom and dad divorced, I went with my mother, but I was a bad kid. So my mom would try to handle us as much as she could, being a single mom, working as a waitress, and we lived in a motel room most of the time with my mom. And then she would send me to my dad in Oklahoma, where he lived a little better because he had a job and he had a wife. But eventually that would turn into broken promises. He promised not to hit us, and we would get hurt, and then he would start blaming himself, and he would send us back to Arkansas. I can remember a time that me and my brother got on a bus, a Greyhound bus in Oklahoma City, and with money duct taped to our chest, and put our clothes over it, and then we, by ourselves, we went from from Oklahoma City to Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, as a way to get back to my mom, which is unheard of now. You don't put a young child on a bus and send them. I mean, it's just not part of the culture anymore. But, so a lot of people don't know this. Well, my dad was the Army, and then he was the Air Force, and then they divorced when I was in the 7th grade. Went back and forth. My grandma was one of the constants in my life that prayed for me. You can always think back to the one person in your life that introduced you to Jesus, and it was my grandmother, and she was rock solid. She loved my mom through all of her mess. She loved me through all of my mess, and when she died, it was like one of the worst thing that had ever happened to me, and still ranks way up there. But so I've been married 4 times. A lot of people don't know that. I've been married 4 times. First time I was in the Army, or I went to basic training, come back, and she had been with somebody else, and I didn't understand forgiveness, so we divorced. Probably 8 months of marriage. And second wife, I deployed to Egypt and Israel in the Sinai Peninsula, and when I got back, she had been with somebody else, so we divorced. I still didn't understand forgiveness. And I was in the Holy Land and didn't know Jesus, and I wish I could go back. But then I met my third wife, and that's when I got out of the military. But when I met her, we were together for 10 years, and I had 2 beautiful daughters. But I messed that marriage up. She was a good person. She tried hard, and I messed it up. But I met Cindy at church in Lake City, and fell in love. Yeah. But she is my rock, and she has stayed by my side in the darkest season of my life. People told her, well, after 10 years of sobriety, I got saved when I was 30, and I was set free from cocaine and crack then, and was sober for 10 years, and then we moved to Hot Springs, and I started going to school for HVAC, and got on meth. Justified it that I was 40 now, and that I could handle it, and I can quit when I wanted to, and I was just doing that to study. And it worked. It worked. I passed school. I passed flying colors. I was on the dean's list, made 4.0. But I couldn't stop doing meth. And I messed up 3 jobs in Hot Springs before Cindy got tired of it and decided that we needed to move back here. Come back here, and I was still stuck in an addiction. It wasn't hard to find dope here. And I went on a 5-year spiral, dragging them along with me when I became an absolute junkie, and I just almost died. Almost died. But thank God, I got arrested right before Christmas on December 16th, 2016. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. In that moment, I lost everything in my mind. But Cindy, although shattered and hurt, chose to listen to God and stay. My wife, to me, is one of the best examples of God's mercy and grace I've ever seen, right up there with my grandma. People that were close to her told her that there was no judgment, that she wouldn't, nobody would judge her if she put me away or if she didn't want to be married to me anymore. Everybody said you would be justified. And a lot of people told her that, but she wouldn't do it. She listened to God, not to people. She picked me up when I got out, and we didn't get to go home and hang out or do anything. She took me straight to Shepherd's Fold. And Shepherd's Fold, when I first got out, and then maybe the first year, I didn't have very good things to say. But I'm realizing now that what happened there changed my life. And thank you, Steve McCracken, for being the blessing that you are, and not letting me get myself in trouble, not letting me walk out when I wanted to. And he took care of me in a season of my life that I really needed it. And I had a lot of pride, and he knew that, and I thank him for that. So I did 6 months inpatient and 4 months out, graduated that October, but I was a felon, and I was on probation, and I was a first-time offender. But jail is not where I'm supposed to be. I do not belong in there. I felt as out of place in jail as I did the first time I came to CR. First time I came to CR, I was like, nah, I'm not one of those people. And it turns out I was way worse. But jail, I sat underneath the phone and cried in jail, in that C block at Poinsett County. I laid there. Now, I didn't yell out, I'm not supposed to be here. I didn't do that. But I did sit underneath the phone and cry after I got off of, you get off the phone and you get so much time, and then it shuts off, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have no control of your life anymore. It's taken from you. And that's a very dark place to be, very dark place to be. And I'm never going back. Yeah, amen. Unless I get arrested for doing something good, I'm not going back to jail. So getting out and coming here to the Rock, my church, my home, my family, my people, 2017 began the greatest season of my life. For the last 8 years, I've gotten to witness more salvations than I can count. I've seen families restored, I've seen marriages healed, I've seen broken and lonely become warriors for Christ. I've been blessed with a job that I actually love. I have something I didn't think I needed, and that was community. You can't do it without community, guys. I don't care how independent and strong you think you are. You can't do it without Jesus, and you can't do it without one another. It says in, I got that wrote down here somewhere. It says in Hebrews 10, 25. No, not 10, 25. Yeah, 10, 25, 24 and 25, actually. And let's consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up and meeting together as some are in a habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day, which is the day of the Lord, approaching. I've learned a lot in 8 years about myself. Some good things, some still need improving. But Hebrews 12 and 1 and 2, I don't even have my Bible up here. Yeah. In Hebrews 12 it says, waiting on my wife. 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eye on Jesus, the champion, who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and now he is seated at the place of honor beside God's throne. It's good stuff. So I've been reading about Solomon. I've been reading the Bible through again this year, and Solomon was blessed. He was probably the most blessed king that ever reigned in Israel. He was the wisest man that ever lived. God gave him that because he prayed for wisdom instead of money or material things. So God granted it. And he was richer than any other king. He had more than anybody else. But he still managed to mess it up. Still managed to sin and chase after women and worship other gods. I mean, he knows better. He knew better than to do that. But he thought he was so smart that he didn't need God. That's the Bible according to me. But that's the way we get where we think we know so much, or that we're good. We got this. That we let ourselves fall prey to temptation, and if the son of David promised by God to build the temple of God, he prayed for wisdom, and he got it. If he was able to do that, then who am I? I mean, I'm in a spot where I'm blessed coming and going anymore, and so blessed that I keep waiting for the bottom to drop out, but it hasn't yet. But I don't want to get so comfortable in that I think that I can't make a mistake, or I can't slip or fall, or I don't need my family. But I have the best family, Pastor Jeff, and my other Pastor Jeff, who's my sponsor. And I don't always feel like I'm all that, but Eloy, every time he's up here, he says something about me and says how great I am. But to have a friend who's willing to jump in or out of whatever situation I find myself in, and I see somebody in need of help, and I feel led to help them, he's willing to do whatever it is I'm going to do. He jumps right in there with me, and sometimes it took two of us to help somebody, and it takes a village. It takes more than. If you got more than one, you can do more. If you got three, you can do even more. But Eloy has always been there and been willing to do whatever I try to do for somebody else. So he's pretty awesome too. And all the leaders, all of the my family here have blessed me in so many ways I can't even count them all. Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I got one more thing I want to share. You know where my phone is? No? Well, I don't have one more thing I want to share. Thanks for letting me share, guys.